I'd like to introduce Miles Tulo from MasterCard. Welcome.
Thanks, Nicole.
He's going to take us through a more in-depth leadership discussion. And I thought it is a great opportunity to have Miles, who works with the mentees at MasterCard and shares this program called Lasting Leadership with them. And I thought it was great if we can bring the mentors on board with some of these core values and core pieces of this leadership component, so we can all be speaking the same language. So thank you for your time and welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. So again, Miles Tullo. I'm an account team leader here at MasterCard, and I do volunteer for her honor. So as Nicole was describing, she had asked that I join the conversation tonight just to share a few thoughts on what might make an excellent engagement with a mentee throughout the next 7 months that you'll be with your mentees. And as you know, at this point, if you didn't already, there is no prescription, right? It's you make this up and you build it out and so on. So that's my goal, is to share a few thoughts with you through the lens of the program that I teach to the girls, which is called Lasting Leadership, that hopefully help you create an engagement that makes the most sense for you and your mentee. So to move forward, let's move actually backwards. And Nicole put a slide up a little bit earlier that had the list of, I think it was characteristics that mentees are looking for from each and every one of us. Does anyone remember what was right at the top of that list? Passion. Great memory. Whoever said that, I didn't. Passion, right? Anybody remember what was second? We didn't talk about it today. Encouragement was third. That's good. Dedication. What was the one you were saying?
Knowledge.
Yeah, so this is what's most interesting. Knowledge was on the list too, right? But passion, dedication, professionalism, but passion, dedication, right, and encouragement were the top three. Knowledge was way down on the list, right? It was the lowest ranked. There was one that wasn't ranked at all, but it was the lowest ranked item. And it was really interesting to me when I first saw that, and I started thinking about it. And I think the reality is, right, these are all young women who are passionate themselves, highly dedicated. They all are in AP classes, at least in the experience that I had last year. They have heavy course loads. They're going through the college application process. They all have extracurricular activities they're involved with. They have teachers and coaches outside of class that they are constantly getting knowledge from. They are on knowledge overload almost. So they show up to us on a Tuesday afternoon, right? And I think almost what they're saying through these survey results is they're looking for knowledge, but it's not just knowledge that they're looking for. They're looking for us to help them navigate all this knowledge and use it to launch from where they are today in high school into their college experience, if that's where they're going next, and beyond. So that's my suggestion as we go through, and as you think about your engagement with the mentees, right, to think about it from that perspective. So I think about it from this lens, right? When I engage with a mentee in whatever situation, I know that I'm bringing two things, and we all have these two things, right? I'm bringing a set of skills, and I'm bringing a set of values, right? Understanding the difference between what skills and values are is important. We'll do that in just a second. But really, when we talk about knowledge, that's skills. You're teaching certain skills, that's knowledge that they can go on to use. I think it's the values, really, that they're looking for from us. Some of the softer stuff that Nicole mentioned. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's just start by defining the difference. So skills, yellow might not show up in the back, so I could read these. But skills are learned or natural abilities that enable us to deliver predetermined results, right? So math and dancing are both skills. Math enables us to maybe calculate a distance to a predetermined result. Dancing lets us entertain an audience, right? Those are skills. Skills also change in worth depending on the task at hand. If you're a computer programmer, right, those skills are useful in certain situations, but not in others. Same thing as an iron worker, right? Those are important skills, but those skills change in value over time. So as you're teaching skills to the girls, some of them you may be teaching skills to that they'll never use again, right? And that's okay, but that's part of what they may be saying. The last piece here is that skills have a relatively short learning curve, right? You can learn them in a classroom, you can learn them from a coach on a court or a field or whatever it may be, right? So these are skills. They differ from values, right? In that values are broad preferences concerning choices. They guide us when we have a decision to make, right? There's no predetermined result. It's not a set environment. We have to make a decision and it's not clear what decision we're going to make. That's where values kick in, right? They reflect our sense of what's right and of what's wrong. They help guide us when we have a decision to make, right? If we want to push harder or slow down or make that leap as this person's doing. They also provide consistency of choice and behavior through various different times, right, and moments, right? And then finally, they don't change much over time, at least without a lot of dedicated hard work by the person who's working on those, right? So when I think about an engagement with the mentee, and I think about what I might structure that engagement around, right? I think about I've got skills and I've got values that I'm going to bring to the table, and using those values and talking about the value of doing right and wrong from your perspective is absolutely okay and highly encouraged by the program, right? And so as you think about things you can do on a day-to-day basis with them, don't be afraid to focus on things that are value driven, right? So let's do this. So values guide us from decisions not clear. I talked about lasting leadership. This is the program that I do teach to the girls, and it's based on this premise that a lasting leader is a leader who inspires others over an extended period of time to achieve results that have lasting benefit. Leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King or George Washington or St. Teresa of Calcutta, right? These are folks that have left lasting legacies even after their own time through inspiration of other people over an extended period of time, right? So back when we all signed up, I think we might have received a list of values from Her Honor. Did anybody not receive this long list of values? And did anybody not receive this? No? Okay. Did that go around, Nicole? You sent me a list of values that, okay. So if you didn't, what was interesting, there's a whole lot of values on that list, right? And what values are important to you, right, might be different from the values that are important to you, right? That's okay. So as I sit up here and I talk about bringing your values to the discussion with the girls, whatever values are important to you, you can bring, right? Whatever skills you have, you can bring. And it's okay, whatever they may be. For those who haven't gone through that exercise or are looking for some inspiration on some values, what I'm going to do is share the 7 values that are commonly seen amongst lasting leaders. I've spent a lot of time throughout my career and life studying these leaders and many others like them and identifying 7 core values that are commonly seen amongst them. I won't take a lot of time to do this, but at least it will be a thought starter that you can use possibly to talk about with the girls. Those 7 values are authenticity, mastery, optimism, empathy, generosity, accountability, and self-control. Right? Again, these are values that are commonly seen amongst leaders who leave a lasting legacy. So let's talk about authenticity real quickly. Right? It's okay to talk to the girls about what it means to be authentic, right? To have a purpose, a real strong driving purpose that guides you every single day through up and down. To set boundaries and stay true to those boundaries. It's okay to say no if there's not something that you don't think fits your path, right? Those are okay conversations to have. To be honest with yourself about your strengths, weaknesses, whatever, and to be honest with other people about those in a way that doesn't hurt them but helps them. These are good conversations to have with the girls rather than with you. Speaking concisely and clearly, right? Talking about how when you have a clear passion and a clear focus and a clear center, it makes it easier to speak concisely and clearly about things, right? And then ultimately keeping it real. And what I mean by that is having that strong passion for what you believe in, but also being open to what other people believe in and letting their beliefs be part of the dialogue, right? Second value, commonly seen amongst lasting leaders, good to talk to the girls about, is mastery, right? And the idea of becoming masterful at something, staying really focused on something for a very long period of time, maintaining high standards for yourself as you pursue mastery, as well as maintaining high standards for the people that are either on your team or working alongside you. Enjoying the ride, talking about the idea that studying, while it doesn't give you that extrinsic motivation, it doesn't stimulate that part of your brain like maybe a roller coaster does, right? It's still critical that you find how to enjoy studying, because you know long term that this is going to pay off for you, right? How do you talk to the mentees about that and staying focused through ups and downs, right? Finding the truth about yourself and adjusting accordingly, asking for feedback, having discussions about asking for feedback and using that feedback to make yourself better, and then ultimately being a lifelong learner, right? Every day that they're with you, they're learning, but as they travel on vacations, they spend time to get to know the area they're visiting, right? Do they know that they're going to continually learn as they go on beyond just high school and college or whatever they might do after that. So including activities around mastery, and talking about mastery is good. Optimism, right? The idea about having passion, again, for something that drives you to be optimistic. Maintaining an expansionist attitude, right? When I had a lot of questions last year from some of the mentees about, hey, this person did this, or this person, how should I react to that? My answer always is yes, and if possible, right? If somebody's challenging you or pushing you, the answer should always be, yeah, I like that, and here's how we can build on that, rather than, let me tell you why that's not a good idea, right? And talking about how it's important to build on other people's ideas and grow with people. Staying positive in the face of setbacks, clearly an optimist attitude. Understanding fear. It's good to talk to the girls about the fears that they might be facing as they head off into this next chapter of their lives. And that fear is a natural reaction that we all have as a result of the way that our brains are wired. And that's okay. It's okay to be scared, right? And it's okay to have to work through fear. And then ultimately rejecting why me. They're all going to have bad days. We all have bad days. And saying why me and feeling sorry for yourself doesn't help you stay optimistic and move forward. So it's okay to have those conversations as well. When we talk about empathy, right, we talk about being genuinely interested in other people, really, right? Really paying attention to other people, tuning into those people, what motivates those people, learning how to ask questions that get to the heart of who somebody is, right? And teaching him that, even in high school, this is okay. It's okay to want to get to know somebody and on a much deeper level than just, what clothes they wear and that sort of thing. And this really gets into being a relationship archaeologist, really digging in and finding out what these people are about. Being a good listener, talking about what it means to be a good listener. And at the end of the day, saying thank you, right? I would encourage all of you to talk to the mentees about writing thank you notes for maybe a colleague that they work with one day that you set them up with. Teach them what a good power thank you note is, right? Thank you for this opportunity, right? I know that you took a challenge to give me this opportunity. Here's how it benefited me, Miles. That's a power thank you note, right? Teach them what a power, and it takes just a couple minutes to write, and make them handwrite it and send it through. That's a good lesson to teach them. Two more. Generosity, right? When we talk about generosity, we don't mean money. I ask all the mentees when I bring up generosity, I say, what does that mean to you? And they all say, money, right? Like this. No, it's not money, right? It's being generous with other things, right? So we'll talk about that in a minute. So when we talk about generosity, we talk about recognizing your role, right? As a leader, your role is to inspire and bring people together, right? Not to divide people. And so recognizing that that's your role as a leader. Know what to give when you're a leader, right? You give your time, give your ideas, give your thoughts, give your praise, give all those things. Know how to empower people, right? By not telling them what to do. This is important for many of the mentees, right? They think about a manager as someone who stands there and says, you do this, you do this. That's their perception of what a manager is, right? Or what a leader is. And having that conversation with them that, look, that's not what a leader does, right? A leader doesn't direct unless they're trying to, attack a hill in a war situation or something like that. That matters, but in the world that we all live in, that's not what leaders do. Talking about that's important, right? Knowing how to give credit. I noticed the girls struggle with that a little bit, right? They complement each other very nicely, right? But how do you give credit in a way that lifts somebody else up and makes them bigger and stronger? It's great conversations to have. And then finally, the hardest one, how to give feedback, right? They are, at times, we encourage them. Nagam and I work together. We not only do, I talk about the leadership, but Nagam teaches about presentations. So we have them present about the concepts that I taught in the previous class. When they come in, they present, and then they give each other feedback, right? And what's really interesting is how they give feedback to each other. Sometimes it's highly critical, but they don't mean to be. It just comes off that way. Great, safe environment to learn how to do that. So we talk about, the sandwich where you give them a positive piece of feedback, you throw in, the critical component, and then you end on something positive. Again, all great conversations to have. The last topic is, two more, accountability. So we heard a lot about accountability already, right? Accountability starts with being consistent. It's okay to make decisions when you're a leader, right? And talking about that, and that when you are the leader, you're expected to make decisions, and getting comfortable with that. Managing people actively, managing your agenda actively, not being passive about things. Creating smart structures, right? So I forget where the example was about somebody not looking at the agenda until the day of the meeting, right? But a smart system is a week ahead, I'm going to look at my agenda for the week, right? Talking to them about your system and how you manage your day is a great conversation to have. And then finally, eliminating chronic badness, right? And what I mean by that is every system, every office, every team has chronic badness somewhere, and it's okay to get rid of that, right? It's okay to talk about the idea that if somebody's been coached and they can't make it anymore, and they see someone maybe get fired from the organization, that's part of the process, right? And then again, if the process is broken and they're frustrated because they can't do something in the office because the process isn't there, right? Talk to them about how this is where leaders step in and they fix those things, right? And give them the opportunity maybe to fix something that's broken. And then finally, self-control. Right? They love this discussion. I bring in these big cardboard characters from Inside Out. Anybody see that movie? Great movie, right? And so it talks about all the emotions. I have this big cardboard, and I put up, I put up joy, and I say, "Who's this?" I say, "Joy." And what emotion is she feeling? Joy, happiness, and that's what it is. So we talk about emotions and how your brain works, right? And the idea that the way that our brains developed over time is such that emotions trigger first. Right? It's the strongest part of our brain, and when we have a stimulus that comes and affects us, the first thing that happens is we have an emotional reaction. And that's okay. That's exactly how we've been wired. Fortunately, we don't have to act on those emotions, maybe like our ancestors did, right? And react to those things in an emotional way. That's fortunate, but it's also unfortunate, because many of us do react emotionally, and especially at the high school level, where people are still developing and so on, they see a lot of emotional reactions. So talking about how the brain works is a fun conversation if anyone knows anything about that and wants to do that. They love that discussion. Understanding, the primary emotions, joy and sadness and all these things, and that it's okay to feel these different emotions is interesting. I like that conversation. I talk about owning the defining moment, which basically means when you have that stimulus and you have an emotional reaction, it's not your emotional reaction that defines the outcome, right? It's the next step that you take. And so if you feel anger based on what somebody just said, taking that quick deep breath, right? Thinking about the long-term implication of your response, and replacing whatever you're feeling with what you know is the right solution takes a lot of practice, but is important, and it's a great conversation to have. I think they were more motivated by this than any other conversation. And then we talk about reducing stress. Right, and these girls are stressed. That's the reality. We heard that there was one last year. I just did that description you were saying of one whose mom was all over to do all these things. They're all stressed for a variety of reasons, right? And talking about the idea that it's okay to step out of the stressful environment and find that quiet time, find that time to get outside and enjoy nature or whatever it is that relaxes them. That this is a big part of having self-control. So those are the 7 values of leaders in my experience and all the work that I've done that are common amongst people who have a lasting impact. And so again, just wrapping up here, my thought for all of you is as you think about what values and skills you're going to bring to your engagement with your mentees, right? Reflecting maybe on some or all of these 7, as well as your own values that you find are important, is a critical part of having an engagement with a mentee over the next 7 months that is more meaningful than just learning individual skills that they may not use based on their own path and what they choose to do.